So yeah, we have some leaders, and do we have any leaders who are doing like hiring, firing, and salary negotiations, stuff like this? Sometimes called the manager, right? Not always. All right, good. So this is our plan. We'll start with the beginning of the journey in the leadership, and some problems that we faced and problems that we face even after years of experience. We look at some context of decision making, right? We are often making decisions when we have dilemmas, and there's a number of factors that we have to take into consideration. Then we'll get to the heart of our land of dilemmas. So we have some extreme on the left, some extreme on the right. We have some blurry stuff in between, so we'll try to navigate that. And then some, let's say, closing thoughts or miscellanea. If you don't know how to name the last part of the presentation, miscellanea usually somehow works. So let's start with our journey. So being a leader is kind of like being an adult, and becoming a leader is kind of like becoming an adult, right? When you are in your teens or somewhere there, you have this feeling that adults are those mysterious creatures that know what's going on, they are responsible, they have life figured out, right? And then on the day of your 18th birthday, you wake up and not much really changes, right? Then you are 20, you are 30, you are 40. Some say that the first 40 years of childhood is the most difficult for men. I'm not sure about this. But in general, it's kind of similar as with leadership. If you are a line employee, you have this feeling that there are those people who know what's going on, who understand the company, who know the executives' things, know what to do in every situation, right? And then you become the leader, you have this footer in your email, right? And still not much changes. You have still some doubts, you don't know what to do. Even after years and years, you have still some dilemmas. Let's get out from this fog a little bit. We feel like a children in a fog a little bit, but let's get out. You're getting to the mountain loneliness. When you are a leader, you have some people around you, your team, right? But sometimes you have to make some decisions alone because of different reasons, like salary negotiations, for instance, or some information that you are not supposed to share. Especially when you are higher in the company, it's more relevant. I guess if you are CEO, it's the worst. Probably you have nobody around you, right? And it gets a little bit difficult. Let's get back from the mountain, a little bit down. You have the crossroads. So often you encounter a problem, a dilemma, right? You have two roads, left and right. You are not sure where to go. So we have these words from Greek. What does it mean, the dilemma? It's the situation where you have to make a choice, and both choices are bad, right? There are some bad consequences of both sides, and you have to look at trade-offs, make a difficult decision. Sometimes there might be more than two, right? Multiple choices, like in a maze. So you can go forward, left, right, maybe diagonally, maybe get back. Sometimes you don't even have clear choices, like discrete possibilities, like you are in a marsh, right? Knee deep, maybe waist deep. You can go forward, you can go at an angle, but you don't know the angle. You can take out some kind of blade and try to hack and slash your way through wilderness, or you can take a dive and look for some underwater passage, secret passage. Maybe you'll find something, but you don't know. Now let's get out from our marsh and to the oracle hut. The oracle has this magic device, the magic ball, that knows everything, sees everything, hears everything, and can give you all the answers, right? What to do in given situation, how to behave on different scales, where you can choose something. In terms of computer science, that would be kind of like a magic box, a black box with a set of inputs. This is our context, our decision-making factors, and we have a set of outputs, right? So how should we behave in certain scales? Should we make a decision quickly, or we can wait? Should we be harsh, or maybe a little bit more soft? Stuff like this. So unfortunately we don't have this device. It does not exist, right? We can't ask it what to do, but we can analyze the input and output. So let's start with the input. So our decision-making context. Alright, so starting with the situation. So something happened, right? Maybe a project manager comes to you and says that one of your guys screwed up something, or maybe one of your guys comes to you and says the project manager screwed something, right? Somebody can't work with someone else on the team. Maybe the production is on fire. Maybe somebody wants to leave the company. there's some kind of problem to be solved. There are some consequences. We are on a ship, and there is a hole in the ship now, right? The hole can be just below the waterline, or it can be above the waterline, and depending where is it, it might be a big problem or not, right? Some decisions can be reversible, some might be very difficult to reverse. Then we have the business situation. Like the last 5 years in IT was kind of like a roller coaster. It was kind of stable, then the COVID hit, and there was chaos and crisis, and nobody knew what to do for a few months. And depending on your industry, it was still bad or it was very good. If you were in a, let's say, software house, for instance, there were a lot of clients who wanted to update their systems to go online, basically, or to migrate to cloud or whatever, to adapt to the situation. So it was like an Eldorado. But still, if you were in travel, IT in travel, it wasn't really that good. So we had this quite a nice time. Then we had to, not yet, we had to pay for fighting with COVID. So there was inflation, interest rates were high, so we went into another crisis, and it's going on for like 2 years. Right, and now we kind of see like maybe there's a light in a tunnel, not sure. Right, so there are different perspectives. Something happened, it's a fact, right? But different people will look at it differently. Right, we have a different perception of what's going on, so you usually have to talk with a few people and ask them what happened. Different person will tell you different things. Right, we have people. People are unique. We all have different personality, different wants, needs, different fears, different desires. Right, we have different expectations of what will happen, and we have to take it into consideration. We have the so-called seniority. Right, so we say that there is a junior developer, middle developer, senior developer, maybe staff developer, and we operate a bit differently with them. But be mindful that it is not one-to-one mapping, right? People might have different seniority and different skills. Somebody might be great at coding, but kind of shitty in talking to business, right? So there are actually multiple seniorities per person, right? There's the leader, you, right? So your own personality, your own leadership style, right? Different leader make different decisions that can lead in the end. The serious decision can go to the same outcome, right? Because some flow of decision works better with your type of personality or your style. We have different organizations, right? There are a lot of framework to describe organization. There's this Queen Cameron, where you have internal, external, flexible and not really flexible. We have this evolution of organization, as in the book by Reinventing Organization by Frederic Laloux, right? We have red organization, amber ones, we have green and teal. Teal is the nice keyword recently, right? Teal organizations. We have different industry, different sizes of organizations. So this is especially important if you change your job. If you go from a startup to a 200-year-old bank, right? Probably they do stuff a bit differently. So you have to adapt, right? And in the end, we have other factors. For instance, some biological factors, right? There is this phenomenon called the judge effect. So they did the research, and when judges were hungry, so before the lunch, the sentences were more harsh, right? If they were after the lunch, they were kind of going easy. And this basically happens when we are making decisions, whether we are hungry, angry, stressed, not slept quite well, this kind of affects us. So if you have the luxury of time, you have some difficult decision to make, maybe it's a good idea, to make sure that you are in a good state. All right, let's move on to our actual dilemmas now. So first, kind of classic, individualism versus equality. So should you treat everyone differently individually or just everyone the same? So I have this one friend of mine who likes flowers and plants, and she has a lot of plants in her place, like a 20. Each is different, but she waters them exactly the same, right? What happens? From time to time, one of these plants basically dies. It's not enough water or too much water, so she just gets another one, and the cycle kind of repeats. It's not the best idea with people, probably, but on the other hand, if you treat everyone exactly individually, it might create some sense of inequality, right? So why this guy, for instance, can go to a conference and company pays for that, and I can't? What to do with that, right? So maybe it's a good idea to look at what value this person brings to the company, right? Is the person sharing knowledge, helping others, etc. And if you reward people that are bringing a lot of value, then it is kind of understandable in eyes of other people. It works out a bit better. There's no this sense of inequality. We have process and flexibility. So should we follow the rules, or can we bend them or break them? Let's get back 40 years in the past. So we have September 26, 1983. There is a Soviet command bunker that controls the early warning system that looks for launches of missiles from the United States with nuclear payload, right? The system is called OCO. And at some point, there's an alarm. The system detected that a missile was launched from the United States towards Soviet Union, right? The situation is a bit, stressful, right? Maybe there is a third world war coming on. In a minute or in a few seconds, there was another 4 alerts. Another 4 missiles were launched. So we have 5 intercontinental missiles going from the same place towards Soviet Union. We have a commander. Commander has clear protocol. In such situation, he has to call his superiors in Moscow and inform them, right? But he hesitates. He knows that something is off. If Americans were to attack, they would launch thousands of missiles from all over the place, submarines, etc., right? And it's not happening, right? He knows the system is quite new, it's not very well tested, so he calls this a false alarm. And he does not call his superiors. And turns out that he was right? It was an error of a system, like some kind of not very common situation where specific types of clouds were reflecting sunlight towards the sensors. Maybe Soviet technology in the 80s, also not the most high tech. So the system was wrong. The commander was right? He broke the rules, basically. He bent them. So we have those rules in our companies, and sometimes the rules doesn't really exactly make sense, right? There are always some kind of corner cases that you encounter that are not covered by the rules, unless you have rule for everything, but then you have too many rules and it's possible to maintain them. That's one thing about how many rules you should create, another thing how much you should follow the rules, right? But in general, think about this: what was the intention of the creator of the rule, right? And try to follow the intention, not exactly rule, to the letter. And it usually works out a bit better, right? A good thing that can help you here is the general company culture. If you have a good culture, strong culture, people are understanding how we do things, how we should do this or that, it usually helps in this, kind of shady situations. Kind of similar topic, we have chain of command and internal integrity. So there was some change in a company, or you get some order from above to do something, but you don't like it, right? It does not resonate with you. You don't agree with this. And now you are supposed to pass this on to your people and enforce it somehow. It's kind of tricky. If you don't believe in something, it's difficult to enforce it on people. So what to do in this situation? We have this framework of going through changes, right? So you are rebellious at the beginning, then you are bargaining, denial at the beginning, actually, right? And you are trying to experiment. So it's a good idea to take some time, if you have the luxury of it again. Talk to your boss, ask why was this change implemented, what's the reason for that, and try to get on board a little bit, right? If you have time for that, and it will be a little bit more natural. Okay, a bit of ancient stuff. So we have democracy and autocracy. So should you make all decisions with your team, ask everyone about their opinion, or should you just rule with the iron fist and say this should be done like this in the end? Right? Democracy has advantages. Usually the decisions are better because more people are involved, right? You have more angles. Also, people feel better if they are included. They have the sense that they have impact on what's going on, right? But on the other hand, democracy is costly, right? It costs a lot of time, a lot of resources. Time is money, right? So in general, maybe it's a good idea to start with democracy, right? And then if you get stuck somewhere, then you have to feel this moment when you are supposed to say, okay, let's wrap up this discussion, we will do this like this. From the ancient times, we are going to this beautiful meadow, the serene lake. So we have the attention and peace. Should we micromanage our people, or should we just leave them to do whatever they want? right? So for the rescue, here we have this situational leadership framework by Blanchard, right? Depending on the competence on your people, maybe again seniority, but be careful with that. If you have somebody who is a junior or just starting in the team, you have to, spend a little bit more time, micromanage a little bit more. If you have people who are autonomous, senior, right, then they will just get angry if you do this, right? So basically you have to make sure that they have everything to do in their power to do their work, they are happy, and be a little bit, step a little bit aside. So getting from this beautiful rake, you have this scary monster, right? So sometimes teams can see monsters from their place, right? Behind the window or something. So the monster can be the financial problems of the company, it can be some layoffs, some difficult decisions, right? Maybe some toxic management, some toxic clients, generally the bad stuff, right? So should you shield your people from those monsters and keep high morale, or should you be transparent and show the monsters? Right? It's tricky because it's not this or that. Right? Usually it's kind of blended. In general, some people have this idea that a leader should shield people from all those problems, right? So hide the monster. There's no monster there, don't worry, just do your work. But if you always do this, people in the end will know. People gossip, people talk to each other, they will know that something bad happens. And in the end, it will be probably worse compared to if you just, be transparent. Once I have this manager who would come to me and say, hey Paweł, I really shouldn't be telling you this, but this and that will happen in the company, right? And this transparency kind of helps you building trust with your boss sometimes. Maybe he's not the best person to keep secrets, you might think, but in general, I think I lean more towards this transparency. So try to tell people what's going on and why stuff is going on. Okay, so let's leave that monster. We are getting to a small village, a small tribe, and in the horizon there is a big kingdom, the big company, right? So company has some strategy, some goals, and your small tribe also has some preferences, some goals, some strategies. They like this technology, that product, etc. And sometimes it might diverge a little bit, right? So should you take care of your team or should you take care of the company in general, right? It's kind of tricky. The company, well, you're employed by the company has some strategy. If everyone does what they want, it will be just, everyone would go in a different direction and it probably won't end up well. You might get bankrupt in this situation. But on the other hand, we have this instinct that we are taking care of, our closest vicinity, right? So our team, our family, our people around. So what to do in this situation? It's good to find some common ground, so whatever makes company happy, whatever makes people happy, and whether we can find the common ground here, the synergy. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. All right, getting out from our tribe, we are arriving at the factory. We have some machines, we have some steam and pressure, right? So should you pressure your team as much as possible, to just take this last 3% of efficiency from them, or should you just leave them a little bit of slack, right? So what happens when you pressure people too much? What happens if you have a system that is at the, close to the max performance and you can add a little bit of load there, right? Basically the system collapses. Let's imagine the computer that has just 5% of memory left and you add another 5%, and what happens, it will just start swapping between RAM and disk, and we will lose like 80% of performance instead of gaining 3 or 5, right? On the other hand, if you have too much slack, then nothing is done basically, right? But usually what happens in this slack time is the magic happens there. So people are the most creative. They find solution to all the problems, the long-lasting problems in your team, and they are generally more happy. And usually teams get it right on themselves, right? So they can figure out how much they can slack, so the company won't go off, let's say, or somebody won't be angry at the top. And usually the error that we are making is pressuring too much, not giving too much slack. Let's get out from the factory. We have this toxic wasteland. There's a rider, a powerful rider, but a toxic one. So we have often these people who are really high performant, right? They can do half the sprint work, or they can sell more than any other salesman combined in the company, but they are toxic, right? People hate to work with them, people are leaving because of them, and it's not a good situation to be in. So should we tolerate that or not? Right? Sometimes you may say that, you may hear the phrase, no assholes policy. Right? If somebody is an asshole, you should fire the asshole. But if the asshole is doing half the work, and if you have this bus factor of 1, and this person is this one, so he knows something about the system that no other people know, right? Maybe if he's not that much toxic, but very high performant, we can close an eye a little bit. Maybe we can tolerate this. But in the end, it's kind of easy to measure how much additional work this high performant person does, but it's difficult to calculate how much work we lose because of his impact, right? So other people leaving the company, other people just don't giving a damn, or being demotivated or unhappy in general. It's difficult to calculate. Again, what helps here is the company culture, right? If you have culture of sharing knowledge, of helping people, sometimes being late with your own task because you help somebody, spreading the knowledge, not hoarding that this obscure system and you are the only person in the company who knows that. It's not a good idea, right? It's a good idea to just share this, and we should reward this behavior. So building a strong company culture helps here, and kind of helps you auto clean the situation. So we have our high performant people, but they might not necessarily be toxic. So we have our stars that are great, that are doing the great job, right? And on the other end, we have people who just don't give a damn, they are slacking, and they don't care, maybe they are just incompetent, whatever. Sometimes we call them, maybe not very nicely, but dead wood, right? And the dilemma here is, should you spend time on fixing what's going on with these people that are on the end, are this dead wood, or should you spend time on your stars that are doing great, right? So often the instinct is, what's happening is that we spend time where there are problems, right? So there's problems with those people, they are not caring about something, they broke something, people don't want to work with them, so you spend time there, and you don't spend time with your stars. But there is also a theory, maybe not very scientific one, but the theory that a square root of number of people in a company does half the work. So if you have 100 people in a company, 10 people will do half the work. If you have 10,000 people in a company, 100 people will do half the work, right? So imagine if we can just cater to those top ones, those top performance, just maybe add 1 or 2 or 3% or something, just help them a little bit, not micromanaging or something, but just make sure that you remove all the obstacles on their way, that they are happy, that they are motivated, etc. You can get much more from that than taking care of people that just don't give a damn. It doesn't mean you should just leave them alone, but maybe spend just a little less time. So getting a little bit deeper. So you have this dead wood, right? And at some point there is a question, should we give them the third, fourth, fifth chance? Should we spend time there, fix their mistake, solve conflicts, etc., or should we just let them go at some point, right? The thing is, it's nice to believe in people, so it's nice to give them second, third chances, etc. Also, you have to carefully examine what really happened, because sometimes it's not that somebody don't give a damn, but the case is that they are maybe on the wrong projects or in a wrong team. Like they have maybe more mindset of a startup, not a 200 years old bank, right? Maybe there is some personal situation, etc., etc. So there might be many things at play here. So make sure you carefully look at that. But in the end, if you let it go for too long, right, the rest of the team will be unhappy. They will see that somebody just don't give a damn, and we are working hard here, and this person is still working with us, getting paid, and they will get demotivated, right? They will leave the company, maybe, or they will just quietly quit. So at some point you have to find this moment where to let people go at some moment. About golems and druids, right? We have efficiency and personal touch. So sometimes when you do let's say operational stuff, maybe inform people about something, talk one-on-ones, etc. You might have this dilemma: should we optimize the communication, maybe budget a little bit or something to use less work on getting things done, or maybe we should put a little bit of personal touch, right? Meeting with someone one-on-one instead of sending an email or doing a group meeting. It doesn't make sense in all the cases, of course, you know, about these famous meetings that could be on email. But in general, we have this tendency, as maybe former developers in IT, to, you know, make stuff efficiency, batch them, etc. But sometimes the personal touch is nice. Like the example in our company, we are a software house, meaning that our team leaders have people that are in different projects. They're working for different clients usually. Clients changes, the team leader stays the same. Sometimes team leader changes as well. So there's this situation where there's a change of team leader. Usually we have this, let's say, a ritual, a meeting of 3 people: the old team leader, the new team leader, and the person that is changing the team leader. There was some nice chit chat, you know, saying hello, saying goodbyes, etc. And now what happens if a team leader for 3 people changes to the same different team leader, right? You could do 1 meeting, or you could do 3 meetings and be more personal. I'm not saying it always makes sense, but sometimes think about being inefficient as adding a little bit of personal touch, and this brings value, you know, to relationships with people. A very general dilemma: planning and action. So should you, spend a lot of time researching what's going on, getting all the data and stuff, or should you just make swift decisions, right? So new leaders often, I think, have this issue that they need to know exactly, they need to have all the data, especially in IT, right? Data-driven stuff. So before they make a decision, they will talk to endless number of people, look at endless number of HR systems, etc., right? But in general, the part of becoming a leader is, understanding that you have to make decisions with incomplete context. You don't have all the data, and furthermore, this will be the best decision you can make at this moment. When you look at it in a future, from future perspective, you look at decision point in the past, you have more information, and now you see that you should have made a different decision. So it was a bad decision, but in fact, at this very moment in past, when you had this incomplete data, it was the best decision that you could take. Emotions and logic, right? In IT, we like to think logically, right? We make decisions in our code. We have if, switch, loops, stuff like this. But with people, it's a bit tricky, right? People are not logical. People are emotional. They have fears, needs, desires, etc. So whenever you make a logical decision, maybe spend a little bit more time thinking about how it would look like from the emotional side, right? So what this person that that has these preferences, personality, etc. would feel about this, right? Maybe this will affect your decision in the first place, or maybe it will at least affect maybe the way that you deliver this decision, right? We are not logical creatures in the end. We have the trilemma, the problem, the free body problem. Has anyone seen the Netflix show or read the book? The free body problem, very, very nice story. So our free body here would be, the first body is the team, the second body is the company, and the third body is the team leader, no? And sometimes team leaders are viewed as this, dump pipes that just pass information from the top to the people and back again. But in reality, we are a bit smarter than that, right? We make some decision, we have some emotional attachment to that. And basically, often you spend a lot of time thinking what would be best for your people and what would be best for the company, and you forget about the third body, right? If the third body does not work, if you are overworked, if you're exhausted, if you are in a bad emotional space or something like that, the whole system falls apart basically, right? So take a moment to think about yourselves. How do you work in this scenario as well, not only the team and not only the company. All right, let's move on to some closing thoughts. So, metrics. Some of you may be thrown upon this, but we have observability in our IT systems. So what about observability with our people in the company? Right? You can do some surveys, stuff like this. Sometimes people will tell you, right, if it's anonymous stuff that they wouldn't tell you to your face in one-on-one. In our company, we have, in addition, this idea. It's called the happiness barometer. So basically, every week, when you are filling the time in a timesheet, there is a pop-up, and it asks how happy you were this week with your projects. There are 4 options. There are 4 rubber ducks there. Right? There is very excited duck. It was great, right? There is quite okay duck. There's not very happy duck, and there is a very sad, depressive duck. It takes like 3 seconds basically to click this, and often we can see some trends, like somebody was okay and then it went down, or maybe it manifests on the level of team, on the project for the client, maybe for a project manager or a people leader or people manager, right? And we can draw some conclusions from that. Sometimes we can just ask people on one-on-one, hey, why did you put up a sad duck this week, right? And the person will tell you if it was important or not. Maybe the person wouldn't like to start this conversation without this interesting tool. So that's one idea what could be done in a larger company. Yeah, remember that you have your own leader, right? There is your boss who is supposed to help you basically make decisions, or whenever you are stuck or something. Sometimes your boss might be very busy, like flying from the client to get some business deals or something like that. So probably you should have some other leaders around you as well. You can talk to them. In our company, since we are a software house, we are kind of like divided in technology. So we have like Python teams, we have Java teams, .NET teams, etc. Sometimes we did meetings like Python team leaders without X, where X was the name of director or somebody, right? Just to talk between ourselves. If it works, great, just do it. Right? Again, remember that everything depends. You might have different personalities as a leader, you can take different paths, different decision points, and in the end it might lead to the same place, right? So there's no one single way to be a good leader and make decisions often. We would like to trust our logic, right, often, but sometimes we just don't know what to do, right? There is this thing called intuition. Some define this as a neural network that was trained on 10,000 hours of data of experience, right? But aside from the definition, sometimes you just have this gut feeling that you should do this like that or like this. And maybe one part of being a leader, especially in IT, is trusting that gut feeling, right? It's a good decision. I have a feeling that this is good. I sometimes cannot, come with the reason why. If you really don't know what to do, right, think about whether you can look at yourself in a mirror after making a decision, right? Or at least maybe you can change the decision, or maybe you can again change the way you deliver the information about it, whether you will keep your integrity or not. All right, we get to the end. This particular QR code leads to my LinkedIn. You are welcome to join if you want to, virtually high five if you are too shy to do this here. I will be here for probably next 3 days, maybe not all the time, but feel free to approach me and ask some questions or just chat. I'm also on some other social networks. I have a blog. It's called How to Train Your Java. It's not really much about Java anymore, more like general software and peopleware. And there should be slides for this presentation somewhere there, and there will be a recording. I think now I just have it in Polish version, so I'm not sure if it will be useful for you, but I will upload the English one as well. And I started a series of articles that are based on this talk. There's just introduction for now. I have 2 more in the draft, but there will be probably like 10. We'll see about this in the future. All right, guys, take care of your teams, take care of yourself, and thank you very much. And we can see if there are some questions now. Let's see if this Slido thing works. It doesn't. If it works on my phone. Oh, there's a question. So we have, okay, I see it better here. Imagine a toxic rider would eventually ruin the whole company. What would you do? Well, if it's ruined, then there is not much to do right at this point. So it's kind of important to spot this earlier, right? And if the rider is too toxic, you should just, have the courage to fire him or her. I guess that's the only way. Do we have any other questions? Maybe somebody just wants to ask the question in a voice, not in a text. All right. If you want to ask a question or just chat up in private, you are welcome to. Again, thank you very much for your time. Thanks. Okay. How would you describe a great leader? Oh boy. That's a difficult question, but I have one presentation about personality types. It's kind of in an RPG theme. It's fighters, bards, druids, and wizards in IT. And in a longer version, I had a slide about leadership, different types of personality. And it turns out that there is not just one perfect leader. You can be, if you have this type of personality, like very active, very strong type of personality, then you would like to be a leader, to make some motion, to push things forward, to check, do some agenda. If you are more in this, does anyone of you know the DISC personality test, like those colors? No, there are those 4 colors for different personalities. So you might be this cheerful type who has also a lot of creativity, a lot of positive energy, and just brings people along with him. There's the green type who just deeply cares about people, but is kind of introverted, like this druid type, and he wants to be a leader because he deeply cares about people. And we have this blue type of personality that are introverted and focus on tasks, and they kind of see the company like a system, right? And they want to optimize everything, even optimize the happiness of people, right? So I don't think there's one great way to describe a leader. Many types of personality, many ghosts can be great leaders in general. Maybe common mistake is that those people who are the loudest are good leaders, but often this is the opposite. Often the people that are kind of behind and not talking that much and that loud are better leaders because they are listening more. All right. Not sure if that answered the question. Anything else? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. All right. Thank you very much.